Although Lightwave's known for its photorealistic renderer, there are several options for getting non-photorealistic rendering and several different styles. And I thought we could take a look at one of my personal favorites, which is the halftone shader. I've got this character in the scene, and I'm going to hop over. Well, first, let's do a quick render. So I just did a F9, and you know what? I'm going to go ahead and turn anti-aliasing on, and I'm going to change the background from black to white. So we'll start with the background. We'll go over to Windows, Backdrop Options, and for backdrop color, I'm just going to change it to white. Okay, and let's do a quick render, and there we go. And I'm going to get rid of some of the pixelation here, the aliasing. Let's go over to Camera Properties, and I'm just going to change it to, let's just do 5 passes of anti-aliasing. Okay, and so here we go. But you know what, actually, just so we can show it off, I'm going to apply the shader to the whole character, but let's zoom in, get a nice detailed shot, which will really show off the shader. Okay, so we'll start here, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and apply the shaders. We'll go to Surface Editor, and on the Shaders tab, we're going to add the halftone shader. Okay, now, if I had multiple surfaces on this object, I went ahead and just made it all one surface so that we could see. But if I had multiple surfaces, I could control the halftone shader settings for each surface for finer control. But let's go ahead and start here. I'm gonna, before I click to get to the properties, let's just go ahead and do a render. And it's not really what I would want to have. It's just these giant dots. That's not looking all that good. So I'm gonna double click, and let's change the X and the Y spacing, and let's try 20 and 20. We can get a little preview up here, but I always like to do a render. Okay, that's a little better, but you know what? I'm gonna make it smaller. Okay, let's try 10 and 10. Okay, much better. So we've got this dot pattern, and it's looking pretty neat, but they're in such perfect rows. I'm going to change the angle, and I'm going to try 45 degrees on that. Okay, a little more interesting, but with the dots, you're not seeing that much of a difference. Let's take a look at some of the other options. For spot type, instead of dot, we could do soft dot, which would just be a lighter, kind of faded version of the dot. For block, let's take a look at what block looks like. And remember, I've changed its small little blocks, which right now is looking a lot like dots. You can see a little bit more on the chin. I'm going to size that up just so that you can get a good look at that. Okay, so when they're real small, it kind of looks like dots, but they're actually little blocks. Let's go back to 10 because I was really liking the look of 10 on that, and we'll change it to cross. Okay, so we get this little cross pattern going on. We've got, and I'm going to scale it up, and we'll look at them, and then we'll go back and change it just so we can see what the patterns we're getting. Okay, so we get this cross pattern. It's looking a little bit like a Dr. Seuss style pattern. Let's go to 0 for the screen angle, which would be the default, and see we're getting this kind of like X pattern. Let's go to scales, so kind of like fish scales. Okay, and let's go to checks, which is like checkerboard. Line, which is a real fun one to work with, especially when you get the size down. I'm going to go ahead and size it down because it's going to work out really good for the last two, which are two of my favorite to work with. Okay, so we get the lines running through there, and but my absolute favorite is the crosshatch. We're getting into the Maurice Sendak Dr. Seuss world here, which is an area I like to play around in. And right now we've got horizontal and vertical lines. I'm going to change the angle. Let's do 30 degrees. We'll get a much more interesting look here. Okay, now what I can also do is I'm going to size this up just a little bit. Let's do 15 and 15. Okay, so it's a little bigger so that we can see, and I can do an X variation and a Y variation. It's going to give it a little bit more of, let's try 20 and 20. It's going to give it a little bit more of a sketch look. Okay, and let's actually bump that up some more. 50, 50, It'll be a little bit like pen and ink, less like pen and ink, and a little more like charcoal or pencil. So we have lots of options here. And again, I'm gonna change this to 45, and I'm gonna tighten this up a little bit. I'm gonna do 10. I'll do 0 for the variation. Let's do 10 in the Y, 0 for the variation, and we'll keep crosshatch. Okay, so this is looking pretty nice. Now we can also change the direction of the light, and of course that's going to change the hotspots on here, which will be great. And this works really nice in animation. But say I don't want the let's zoom into the teeth. Say I didn't want this kind of pattern going on the teeth. Well, if I had a different surface name, I could go and either take that off, or I can tweak the settings on that. I can also take this as my base, and if I want, I can go over and add a gradient to get some black lines. Now I could go over to Object, Properties, and go to Edges and play with the edge settings to get some nice edges going on there. Or I could come over to, let's go to Color, and let's just add a quick gradient. So gradient, and I'm going to set this to incident angle, and let's go black, and let's go white. Okay, and let's see what this ends up looking like. Okay, so we can see a little bit of white there. I'm gonna harden that up. I'm gonna actually invert that, and let's set it to, from spline, let's set it to step, and take a look. Okay, so I can start adding big black areas, and actually I shouldn't have inverted that. We'll get a nicer look here. Okay, and let's tighten this up a little bit. That was a little too tight. Let's shrink that a little bit. Okay, so now we're blending, using this gradient, we're blending some thick outer edges, right, with the crosshatch. So if you experiment a little bit with gradients and halftone shaders, you can get some really nice traditional pen and ink looking illustrations right out of Lightwave. You can also, again, if you play with those variations, it can look a little bit less like pen and ink and a little bit more like pencil. And don't forget that there's all different types of, there's dots and scales and checker, but crosshatch and line seem to be my favorite. So dive right in and see what you can come up with.